It's 6:41 and it's time for the nation's business. My name is Sanjay Lewis. Education Minister Dr. Dana Morrison-Dixon says the ministry has deployed multiple initiatives aimed at improving the literacy rate of primary and secondary students island-wide. She was reacting to a Gleaner report that several students in the first form cohort at Pembroke Hall High were either unable to read or could only do so at the third grade level.
It's always sad when you see those reports, and it is the reason why we are focused on literacy. And you would have heard me announce that come September, from grade 1 to grade 3, we are timetabling reading. It had been taken off of the timetable some time ago, and we are putting it back on the timetable because we cannot afford for our children to leave primary school not literate. We've put in some new programs. We call it the tactical approach, where we're focused on literacy in those schools that are challenged. And so our reading specialists are working with them. We're doing more interventions, and come September, for all of those schools, the children will now get breakfast.
Senator Dr. Dana Morrison-Dixon, Minister of Education and Youth. She was speaking at a post-cabinet media briefing on Wednesday at the office of the Prime Minister. Principal of Pembroke Hall High, Reverend Claude Ellis, says the school has put programs in place to address the poor literacy level of students.
When we saw that many of our students were operating at a lower level, we decided that we would limit the number of subjects that the grade 7 cohort would have. And so they started doing 6 subjects rather than the normal 15 subjects. And we focused the time that we took from the other subjects on literacy and numeracy. And we even implemented last year a mandatory summer school for our grade 7 students who we found were not reading at the level that they should be reading.
Reverend Claude Ellis, principal of Pembroke Hall High. He was speaking on Nationwide at 5 on Wednesday. Reverend Ellis says parents' full support for the remedial programs implemented is crucial. He says parents are as important as the school and the education ministry in the push to improve the situation. Well, joining us now to discuss further is the Director of Region 1 in the Ministry of Education and Youth, and that's Otis Brown. Good afternoon, Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for having me here.
Wonderful. Always a pleasure. Now, the Education Minister mentioned several initiatives that have been deployed to address the challenges that we're seeing. Give us an overview of the specific strategies currently being implemented across Region 1.
Well, as you said, the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information is making a determined effort to tackle literacy to the extent that the literacy rate of our country can be much higher than it currently is. When we talk about putting strategies in place to assist our children to develop in the area of literacy, we are talking about strategies that target the children from early childhood right up to grade 13. So you may be aware that Jamaica, we've been focusing for some years now in this ministry on what is called the K-13 strategy. So if I were to name some of those strategies, one, the ministry has a Brain Builder program where their children who are 4 years and 5 years of age can enroll in what we call Brain Builder centers in those schools across the country that are permitted to operate Brain Builder centers. And in those centers, we try to do what is called early stimulation. So we get the children's brains ready for reading and learning in general as they advance through the education system.
So, Mr. Brown, before you go further, help me to understand, how long ago did the ministry implement this program that you're talking about?
We're talking about a strategy that has been implemented well over 8 or so years now in the Jamaican education system.
Mm-hmm. So if it has been implemented over 8 years ago, is it really working? Because based on what we're seeing from Pembroke Hall, Students are leaving primary school not being able to read, and some are able to read at the grade 3 level. So is the program really working as effective as it should?
Yes, sir. I can tell you that the program is working because we see where the system is making incremental movements as it concerns the matter of literacy. Jamaica's literacy rate is nearly 70% at this time. And based on recent checks that were done and the tests that were administered, we're expecting that when those results are out shortly, this rate perhaps is going to be even higher. So we see where the literacy rate of the country is climbing overall. But may I please, sir,
Yes.
speak to something that you raised a while ago before I get back to the specific strategy that you
Sure.
asked me to address. You mentioned the case of Pembroke Hall High School, and the backdrop of this is that article that was published in the Gleaner a few days ago, speaking about a large number of children not being able to read, a number of them not being able to identify letters, and so forth. Now,
Yes.
put that into perspective. At Pembroke Hall High School, one of those schools that we in the Ministry of Education believe is making good progress, the children that are not able to identify letters of that cohort of well over 200 children that the article is referring to, there are 6 children in the cohort from what we know who are below what we call pre-primer. 4 of those students are pre-primers, and 5 of them are at the primer level. So those are the basic levels, and those children who are operating at those levels are the ones who are challenged to identify letters and so forth. The vast majority of the children in the cohort are not having a struggle to identify letters. For example, I can tell you that from that group of children that we're talking about, pre-test was done on them, post-test was done on them using the IDRI instrument. And when the test results were put together, we found that near 60 of them were reading at the grade 3 level, near 30 of them were, that's 1 to 3, near 60 of them, grades 1 to 3. In the terms of those reading at grade 4, about 27, 28 of them, about 14 of them at the grade 5 level. Over 70 of those children were reading at the grade 6 to 9 level, which means that these children are basically reading at their grade level. So
70 out of the 200 students.
Yes, well over 200 children, about 220 of them or so. So we want that to be clear to the public that these children, it's not the vast majority of them who are not reading at grade level. And I could tell you as well, as someone who knows the data where the school is concerned, that a number of these children from the same Pembroke Hall High School that you referenced a while ago have moved up grade levels since this school implemented a robust intervention plan that was developed with support from the Ministry of Education, Region 1.
I hear you, but we still have a problem, because if we even have, let's say, 70 of those students who are reading at the grade 6 level, and let's say it's about 200, if my math is correct, you have about 130 that are not reading at the grade 6 level. That is a cause for concern. Yeah, because why is it that we have so many students leaving the primary school and are unable to read at the grade 6 level? Something is wrong.
I can agree with you that it is a cause for concern, but at the same time, I'd like to point you to something else in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
These children, a number of them from Pembroke Hall High School, the same school of Hot Topic, have moved up a number of grade levels. So a number of them who are reading at the grade 1 level have moved up to the grade 2 and the 3 levels. And that general movement is taking place in the cohort, except for about 10 of those students. Now, I want to say that while we know that there is in fact an issue, the fact that children are making this kind of progress, moving up grade levels, it's likely that with the right types of intervention being in place for them, over time, those children will be able to perform on standard and do well in external examinations as well. And I want to point out to you, when I started earlier, I spoke of the K to 13 strategy. So while it is that the bulk of our children will write their physics exams, for example, city and leaders examinations, the NCT with exams at grade 11. I want us to remember that the K to 13 strategy permits the children to get 2 additional years at the high school level so that they can maximize on such opportunity to do better as they move along.
Have you been able, though, Mr. Brown, to have a better idea of the root cause of the problem? Is it linked to the homes, or is it linked to the specific primary schools that they're coming from? What is that link? Where is it that we've gone wrong, that we have so many of these students not reading at the grade 6 level?
A number of factors are affecting our children where reading is concerned. A number of children may be coming from economically disadvantaged situations where, you know, they do not attend school as frequently as they should attend the school. Some of them are coming from homes that are broken, and the issues internally, they do affect them. Some of them are coming from circumstances where the absence from school is due to community violence and so forth. And of course, in some instances, we know that there are pedagogical issues in some of our institutions that we also have to address. So it's a wide range of factors. But may I point out, though, that this is why the Ministry of Education has its wraparound services to deal with these children now who are so affected. So the Ministry has wraparound services, and if you allow me to expand on that a little bit, wraparound services. When we talk about wraparound services in the Ministry of Education, skills, youth, and information, we're talking about this holistic and integrated type of a framework for delivering services to our children. And in a number of cases, the family members, like mothers and the fathers, caregivers of the children. So this support, I must point out, will come from multiple sources. And so what we do, we address the issues in a multifaceted way rather than treating with a single issue when there are many issues affecting a child. So may I give an example so Jamaica Land we love could understand this better? You find a child who is underperforming in school, so the academics are not so good. But you will, if you check deeply, if you assess the situation, you may find that the particular child who is underperforming in school is affected by a number of other factors. So the guidance counselor will come into play for counseling support and so forth. And you know, it's a financial issue like for transportation. The ministry now has a national rural school bus program. Then you may find the child is being abused. We may need to get support from the CPSSA. And if there's a parenting issue, because we assist the family members too, we may need to get some support from the National Parenting Support Commission. And that is why I use the term holistic when I started telling what wraparound services are.
Yeah.
May I go back now to the specific strategies that you asked for earlier?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. Number one, the Ministry of Education is rolling out what is called the CIA roadmap at this point. So it is a curriculum, instruction, and assessment roadmap that will guide teaching and learning in Jamaica. So this is a strategic kind of a reform policy implementation plan. And we are using it now to unify and streamline instruction and the strategies that we use to teach the children system-wide in Jamaica Land we love.
Is it just is this at the high school level, the primary school level, or at all levels?
We start right at kindergarten, and it's going right up to grade 13. That's a CIA roadmap. So you're finding that teachers are going to be trained to address teaching and learning in a way where they can craft out plans to cater to the learning needs that they identify in our children. One of those things that we are focusing heavily on as we deal with the CIA roadmap, as we roll it out across the island in our schools, is a matter of what is called the individual learning plan. So we look at what may be affecting a child in the classroom, And the teachers are asked now, they will be trained to develop those individual learning plans to tackle the needs that they find affecting the particular child. And then there is what is called the tactical approach. The tactical approach is a strategy that we rolled out in October and November of 2024. The tactical approach, it has three major pillars. One is called performance tracking and the celebration. The other is called extended learning and the teacher support. And the next is called accountability. I'd like to point out that on the performance tracking, what we are doing in this case, we are training our schools, the leaders and the teachers in our schools, to be better able to use data to inform their teaching practices. We want that to be done. So they develop intervention programs from an informed position, and that is using the learning data from the children that they have entrusted in their care.
Let me understand, Mr. Brown, this CIA program that you're making mention of, you said that it started to roll out in some of the schools. What's the projected timeline in all our schools in Jamaica, and do you have the buy-in of the JTA on this one?
All right, so the CIA roadmap, as I said, the curriculum implementation and assessment roadmap of the country, sensitization sessions have been held with different stakeholder groups in the system. So the principals have had their sensitization sessions, the board chairmen have had their sensitization sessions, and now across the 7 regions, the administrative divisions of this ministry, we are now starting the training exercises for the teachers in our schools to understand the CIA roadmap. You're asking if the Jamaica Teachers Association has the we from the ministry have the buy-in from the JTA. And I'd like to point out that number one, in this ministry, there is a monthly meeting set up with the Jamaica Teachers Association, where the Honorable Minister of Education herself, the Permanent Secretary, Chief Education Officer, the technocrats of the ministry sit and discuss a number of things. It
doesn't mean, though, Mr. Brown, that you have the buy-in, because on several occasions I've spoken to various JTA presidents who have sat in those very meetings and they disagree with the position put forward by the minister or the ministry.
But may I say to you, though, based on what I know, I do not know of the JTA having an issue with the CIA roadmap. It does exist. I suppose we do not know as yet.
Yeah. So, because this is critical and what you're outlining is very comprehensive. It is needed because the problem that I'm seeing is that we're identifying that these students are unable to read at the grade 6 level when they start high school, and we need to track it from a very early age so that we can fix the problem before they reach to the high school level. So it will be very interesting to see if we have the buy-in. But when is it that we'll have the full rollout? Here you talk about the sensitization, but I want to know the finalized date on when we will see it fully implemented in our schools.
September of 2025.
September of 2025, we'll see that.
That's right. And may I please too?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mention, because you're talking about the, tracking this from an early stage. At this point, the Ministry of Education is also doing what is called the early reading intervention training for the teachers of grades 1 to 3. We are now at the stage, as I speak, we have the persons who are identified to be trainers at Hilton Rose Hall Hotel in Montego Bay. They are being trained so that they can train the teachers of grade 1 to 3 to teach reading in a deliberate way beginning in September of 2025. So what is happening is that we want all teachers of grades 1 to 3 to become teachers of reading. So no longer will you only do reading in the language arts window when you're teaching language arts, for example, at the primary school, but you are going to do reading as a timetabled subject, grades 1 to 3. And if the school is one of those institutions on the National School Learning Intervention Plan, that is the NSLIP, those children should be taught reading in a deliberate way, timetabled reading from grades 1 to 6 and not 1 to 3 only. So we are making that deliberate effort to have our children improve. And while we are doing that, we are making certain we build the capacity in our teachers so that they can deliver using the correct and good pedagogical approaches that will in fact benefit our children during these teaching and learning episodes.
And just before I go, I want to know the situation that we see at Pembroke Hall, how widespread it is across other high schools in Jamaica.
Yes, a number of our high schools in Jamaica do struggle when it comes with the children's performance in the area of reading. Currently, we have the NSLIP program that I spoke of earlier, the National School Learning Intervention Plan, and we have about 56 of our high schools under that program. These are the high schools that we really have used a tactical approach. We've been using the tactical approach to address the challenges that we see in them as it concerns literacy, English language, and mathematics. So this approach is intended to empower the teachers with new strategies. We've been doing training of departmental heads, English language, mathematics, for language arts, and so forth, so that these teachers can be, empowered to use better pedagogical approaches, like I said before, to impact the children's learning to the extent that we will see a significant reduction in the rate of illiteracy in the country.
Otis Brown is the director of Region 1 in the Ministry of Education, Information and Youth. Thank you as always for your time.
You are most welcome.
All the very best. I really hope that we have the buy-in of the JTA with this one, because based on what Mr. Brown just explained, we need this comprehensive program within our schools. We cannot have students at first form at the high school level and they're reading at the third grade primary school level. That is unacceptable.